Hello, and welcome to Poetry and Prose. Today we're going to be carrying on with Lady Eveline, and we're now on chapter 4, which is Travelling. The walls of the carriage folded down like a stack of playing cards collapsing. I tried to run, but my head was bound. I tried to move, but the same invisible belts and shackles around my head restrained me. I took in my new surroundings. I was back in my cottage. My grandfather was there, and I was just a small boy of around 8, lying on the floor playing with my trains, the tin wheels clattering around the steel tracks. Mother burst in, red-faced and crying, "He's gone! Oh God! He's left us with nothing!" Grandfather consoled her, but I was oblivious, still lying on the floor in a world of my own. Stay in that world. Never look up. Before I could even think, those words shot out of my mouth. Alas, they had no effect. I seemed only to be an unwilling spectre. The scene walls melted, like dripping syrup. The next vision was my first sweetheart, sitting under a beautiful old oak tree. The sunlight dappled through the leaves, scattering light across her features. I, now a young man, was lying beside her, my head upon her lap, wearing a face I hadn't seen in years, a face filled with contentment. "But I love you," said my younger apparition. "Well, I'm sorry. I no longer love you." Her reply was as cold and as indifferent as when I had heard it the first time. "So you're leaving?" The younger me now sitting bolt upright. "Yes, don't try to follow me. We're through." With that, she stood up and walked away. I watched my former self, how he writhed in agony under that tree, how his heart exploded internally with not the slightest external sign, how he sobbed, the tears rolling swiftly down the puffy eyelids and flushed cheeks. I closed my eyes, my only control in this moment, still hearing the sobbing, until, suddenly, quiet. Nothing. Cautiously, I opened my eyes. I was in the middle of Edinburgh, still strapped to a seat. People all around me were walking by, but I could not hear them. They made no sound. Then perchance I dared to steal a look upon one of their faces, only, to my horror, there was nothing, just a pale skin stretched taut over where their features like lips, eyes, and nostrils should be. Terrified, I screamed, but they had no ears, no eyes to see my fright, no lips with which to reply if they had wanted. They just walked on by. I was jolted awake by the train pulling into the station, the squeal of the brakes matching the silent screams from my brain. A cold sweat covered my forehead. I dared not move. The carriage walls were black. Reaching for my handkerchief, I dabbed my head, grateful that I had such freedom once more. My breathing slowed, my body released its taut muscles, and I prepared to depart. More than happy to leave that nightmare behind. The small station rolled into view before me. Now, I am a bit of a train enthusiast, so I knew this line was less than 1 year old at the time. The newspaper had written a lovely article about it. However, given such a recent completion date, its amenities were scarce. One small stone shelter greeted me as I departed the carriage, a simple wooden roof with slates on top. And just before we continue, there is this illustration I've done of Bankery Station as it would have looked in the mid 1800s, with just this kind of ramshackle platform and small stone hut and nothing else. And this is our train pulling up into the station. The goods yard was more developed, and already the little tank engine was speeding away to collect and shunt the wagon we had hauled up from Aberdeen. I watched it for a moment before coming back to myself, walking down the steps towards the town. The high street had the same grey granite facades as Aberdeen had. This was not to my taste, but I could appreciate the effort in mining, moving, and carving these huge blocks of rock. Humanity truly is amazing when we build instead of destroy. I passed the parish church, a Gothic-style building, stone-clad. I wished to visit it. However, I found the main doors locked. Defeated, I carried on down the high street. Inns, small shops, and town life greeted me. People who I presumed to be farmers gathered around a pen of cows, each one bidding up the next. Carts rattled across the cobbles in a deafening roar, only surpassed in volume by the slightly ajar door of the alehouse. The air was pleasant here. It was a lot nicer than the city air. Breathing in deeply, the slightly pine-tinged air flooded into my lungs. I saw an inn, the Burnett Arms, in front of me. Not being too fussy, and in need of lodging, I made for the small painted door. The door gave some resistance, before swinging freely, the result of a bell being disturbed from its hanging above. Clanging away, it sounded off an announcement to my presence. The smell of peat, pipe, and cigarette smoke hung in the air, infused with the aroma of good malt, wax, and soap powder. Sounds filled the space, low rumbling voices from a small room on the right, clanking pewter tankards and calls for another round. Men full of merriment that only spirits and beer can provide. "Afternoon, sir," said a voice, a middle-aged man with glasses and a pin suit. He stood tall behind a marble countertop, but was thin in build, with a small, tight, constrained moustache above his lip. "Welcome to the Bernard Arms," he said. "Lodging here, or just passing through for a dram or beer?" There wasn't so much a warm expression on his face, but it wasn't hostile either. It was a mask, well worn and well practiced. "Lodging, please, sir. One night, then I'm bound for Braemar," I replied. "Braemar, eh?" His moustache twitched slightly at the word. "Only lords and ladies up that way. Begging my pardon, but you don't look like either." Well, with this, I let out a hearty laugh. "My good fellow, you must have been a detective in a former life. I am caught red-handed, neither of money nor noble blood. However, I have been invited to stay with the Lord and Lady Braemar for the weekend." "Have you now?" he said, almost in disbelief. "Well, you must have done something special. They don't just call up anyone to the castle." His moustache twitched again. "Be that as it may, they have. So I shall be needing a lodge for the night, please." "Of course, sir." He came back to his senses, and the well-versed mask was back on. "Room 3 should do you nicely. It's got a view of the town square. Dinner is at 7 o'clock. Don't be late, or you'll get the scraps." Then he took my coins, filing them away in a neat little system under his table. Turning around, he pulled one of the large iron keys off the hook. He had which had a white 3, hand-painted above it, and slid it across the marble slab. "Thank you kindly," said I. "Now, how does one go about acquiring a coach for tomorrow to Braemar?" "Well, sir," he said, drawing from his years of experience, "you have a few options. I could book you a post-chaise, if sir wishes to pay, or there is a mail coach which passes close by to the castle, but it would be a 20-minute walk from the nearest stop. Or," he said, moving closer, "since it's only you, and you're travelling light, my son could take you for half the price in our gig." I pondered the choices. "I'll take the gig, sir, since you've been so kind to offer," I said. "Can I also book a return journey for early on the Monday morning?" "No problem, sir." He turned around and yelled into a small doorway behind. "Tommy! Tommy!" A young man of maybe around 18 appeared with a potato peeler in one hand and a half-peeled potato in the other. "See this man, son. He needs to get to Braemar Castle tomorrow. Ensure you get the horse and cart ready early up in the morning. As you know, it will be an 8-hour trip with stops, so I'll write you a letter and you can stop with the Douglas family until Monday morning, where you will bring Mr. He paused for a second, looking at me. "Mr. McCrae," I said, "where you will bring Mr. McCrae back from his visit." The young man nodded, then went off to continue peeling the potatoes. "Right, sir," said the man. "That's all sorted. It will be 8 shillings both ways, 5 for the travel and 3 to give to the Douglas family for feeding and lodging him." "Splendid," I said. That was much less than I had been given in the letter. They had obviously expected me to take the post-chaise. Sliding over the coins, I picked up my key and started wandering up the stairs to my room. I was still exhausted from last night's affair. "Mr. McCrae!" the man called after me. "Yes," I said, stopping to turn around. "Best be up for 7 o'clock, sir. My boy will be getting the horses ready at 6, and you'll set off around 8. "Perfect," I said. Thank you, Mr. It was my turn to stare at him now. Mr. Belthorpe, he added, don't you forget the dinner. I'll have the wife make us up a hamper for your trip tomorrow as well. Most kind of you, sir. Greatly appreciated, I replied. Then I headed up the creaking wooden stairs to my room. I found it, the third floor on the left. Rummaging for the key in my pocket, I fumbled it into the lock, entered, and surveyed my lodgings. And that's chapter 4 of Lady Eveline. So I'll see you in the next video, and thank you very much.